Hello and welcome to this week's Glasstire Top 5. It is the week of June 20th?
June 20th.
2019. I'm Christina Rees.
And I'm Christopher Blay.
We are in Fort Worth, Texas. Christopher Blay, great artist, frequent contributor to Glasstire.
It's number 5 this week in our top 5 is Kate Simon at Fort Worth Art. It's a collection of photographs, portraits, that span probably 4 decades.
Mm-hmm.
There's the cover, the photograph on the cover of the Clash debut album.
Yeah, their first album.
Mm-hmm.
She was like a rock and roll photographer, portrait photographer, did artists, rock people like Debbie Harry.
Yeah, Madonna.
The Sex Pistols.
There's one of Miles Davis in the corner and Bob Rauschenberg staring into the camera.
That show is up through the end of August. So number 4 on our list this week is, it happens at CAMP, which is Contemporary Art Museum Plainview in Plainview, Texas, which is way up in the Panhandle, or West Texas, north of Lubbock. Now, this show kind of makes sense about where it's taking place. It's Matthew Williams. It's called Matthew Williams and the Invisible Genie, My Art with the Dynamite Museum. Dynamite Museum was an art collective. They put up road signs all over the city, up to 5,000 of them. They were all original. They were artworks and kind of conceptual artworks. And it was a lot of young guys, a lot of, Stanley Marsh III was the guy who funded it, so there's some controversy around that. But the sign project, I think, really lives independently of Stanley Marsh. Matt Williams was kind of a linchpin in that scene, and for the Dynamite Museum, he's been rehabbing these signs, the ones that still are up around town, because this was in the 90s primarily. And he's been rehabbing the signs, and he made a lot of the signs. And so I think this is going to be a show of those signs. And he's an interesting artist. He once had a project where he spent 2 years wearing nothing but yellow, 2 years wearing nothing but red, and 2 years wearing nothing but blue in Amarillo.
Uniforms.
I think he's interesting, and I think this is going to be a good show, and it opens on Saturday at Contemporary Art Museum Plainview. So 3 on our list is at Linda Pace Foundation in San Antonio. It's Isaac Julien, the British artist who was born in London. This is a fairly well-known piece of his. It's a film. It's called Looking for Langston from 1989.
And this is Langston Hughes?
It is. It's a tribute to Langston Hughes. It's about the connection between black gay desire and art. So there's, he's, I think, searching for his own identity by looking at other people's output and identity. I think it's partly narrative. I think part of it's documentary. And what I do know is that Linda Pace Foundation owns a lot of Isaac Julien's art. I think some of that's going to be up in the show, as well as a lot of photographs that go with the film. That opened a few months ago. Ruby City, Linda Pace Foundation's new building, isn't quite open yet, so this is in the original building, and it is up through August 11th.
So number 2 is Between Play and Grief, selection from the Latino American collection at the Museum of Fine Arts, Houston.
So this is stuff that they've collected. This is Latin American and Latinx art that they've collected just over the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. So it's names that we know and love. Vincent Valdez is in this collection. Luis Jimenez is in this show. Celia Alvarez Munoz is in this show. Cesar Augusto Martinez is in this show. And I know that they did this. This was coinciding with the Spring of Latino Art and Latino Art Now, this big seminar that happened throughout Houston in the springtime. So this is still carrying over, and you've got the rest of the summer to see it.
And number 1, it is Monet, the later years at the Kimball Art Museum here in Fort Worth, aka Funky Town. So I went to the opening, and we know Monet because we know the kitsch, and we know the familiarity, and we know that Monet has an audience. Mm-hmm. But Willem Flusser, the Czech philosopher, described this concept of things going from ugly to beautiful to pretty to kitsch and back to ugly.
Yeah.
It's the thing that is radical when it happens, and then it becomes the thing behind your couch, and then it becomes the mouse pad, mm-hmm. and then it's completely discarded, and then it's rediscovered because it has those qualities that mm-hmm. Make painters want to paint and make artists want to look at good painting. The other thing is just his commitment and dedication to his subject. I'm of the school that artists need to make what they're moved to make versus, you know, I'll have this great thing that I do and I'm going to do it for the rest of my life.
Right.
Yeah, but this is like a 70 plus year, 60 plus years of trust in a subject matter that shows in how familiar he is, or how familiar it seems when it's executed. It's sort of like second nature. It's connected to him in such a fluid way that it's not a person standing there thinking and painting, but understanding what's going to happen, but not knowing what's going to happen.